You can see it. Maybe you can't hear it, but you can see it for sure. It is there. I am waving it in front of the computerized camera of mine, that very cheap plastic made in China piece of junk camera that has served me so very well for the past almost year and a half here on the internet. You can see it all right. There it is. Shake, Wrestle, and Roll by the Exotic Adrian Street and the Pile Drivers. Tell me that's not a fine, fine looking album. The front and the back. Ooh, the Exotic Adrian Street on an LP being held by me, Malcolm Tent. Your host every single week right here, baby, on Tent Talks Tunes. Woo! If you can hear this voice, and it is live, you know that it is a Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that it is Facebook. If you know for a fact that you're not looking at Facebook, and you know that it definitely is not Wednesday, and that it probably isn't 7 p.m., then you might be watching me on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, which you really should subscribe to if you haven't. This also might be Facebook at a later date, at a later time. I don't know. There's so many options when you're on the internet. Matt Maticola, hello there, sir. Thanks for tuning in. Good to see ya. For anybody else who might not have checked in already, I know you're out there. You're lurking around the edges. You're on the periphery here, there, and everywhere. That's fine. That's why I do this. I do this to be stared at from all directions on the internet. It's my ego, my ponderous, huge, giant ego. Can't believe this pencil-thin neck of mine is strong enough to support such a huge, top-heavy ego. Ah, Michou, bonjour du Québec. Hey, the Québécoisie in the house. Hello. I hope that my comprehension of French is at least as good as your comprehension of English. I know for a fact that when I try to speak French, it's not nearly as good as your English, so I guess the playing field is kind of even there. Randy Larson, hello. Cruz from Florida, hello. Neil, hello, 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 hello. Let's check our various comings and goings and doings, shall we? Let's take a look. Let's look at the mailbox first. Well, actually, let's not look at the mailbox first. Let's look at the billboard first. Let's take a look at the billboard first and get that out of the way. Now, you saw me waving this Exotic Adrian Street album around, and you might remember, those of you who are very attentive fans of Tent Talks Tunes, might have seen me waving this record around a couple of weeks ago. And it is a fact, I was waving this record around a couple of weeks ago. And I plumb forgot to tell you all why I was waving this record around. I'm waving it around because I got a hot tip, a hot internet tip a little while ago that the Exotic Adrian Street had a quantity of these albums to sell. And that if I jumped on it real quick, I could get some and get them at a fairly reasonable price. So I did. I ordered a box of them. So now that I've put the money in the Exotic Adrian Street's very glamorous and very fashionable pocket, and I've taken possession of the records, it is now my job to let you know that I'm selling these right here, right now. These are real, honest-to-God Exotic Adrian Street albums. They are on the disgraced Burger Records label. The label has been canceled out of existence. They tried to bring it back, and that got canceled out of existence. So it's a pretty fair bet you're not going to see these again anytime soon. Certainly not in this incarnation. It's got not only the album, well, I should say it's got the album cover. It's got the album itself on heavy black vinyl. And did I use the word glamorous before? Oh, wait till you see this. Talk about glamour, which is spelled G-L-A-M-O-U-R. A glamorous full-color poster of Exotic Adrian Street and the Pile Drivers. I hope that the lens of my camera is big enough to contain all this art. Look at that. I want to sell you some of these, and I want to sell them to you for $10 each plus shipping in the U.S. $10 each. I know Record Store was last weekend. You would be hard pressed to find any Record Store Day release priced at $10, let alone a genuine. It's not 100% original because it did come out originally on a different label, but this now completely out of print and archaic Burger Records pressing of the exotic Adrian Street for only $10 a throw, man. This is better than Record Store Day. And it goes into not my pocket, but Harry the Cat's cat food fund. And I haven't seen him all day today. I don't know where he is. I'm sure he's out there roaming and raving somewhere. Hope he's doing all right. But hit me up directly, kids. $10 plus shipping will get you an exotic Adrian Street album. And if you want, remember what I said earlier about ego? I'll even sign my name to it, even though I have nothing to do with it. I'm not on it. I didn't release it. I have nothing to do with that record other than the fact that I held it in my hands for a brief period of time. I'll sign it. How's that for sheer chutzpah? Chutzpah to the max. I specialize. All right, let's check the bulletin board, shall we? We've looked at the billboard. Now let's look at the bulletin board, which I very thoughtfully sit in front of every single week here on Tent Talks Tunes. What's going on? Well, we got some gigs. We're going to go in chronological order here. We got flyers from now. August 6th in New Milford, Connecticut. Fast Eddie's Billiards Cafe. Look at that. Punk show featuring my punk rock black metal hybrid supergroup, the Bloody Apostles. Our good friends White Thrash from Danbury, Connecticut. And Collins Way, also from Danbury. We got to be fair and make a disclaimer here that Collins Way are not strictly punk rock. In fact, I don't think you could really call them punk rock at all. But they're good dudes, good people, good musicians, all original. Love them. Very happy to be sharing the bill with them. Very excited for this. So August 6th, Fast Eddie's in New Milford. I don't care if you're square, just be there. Forwarding a couple weeks later to August 26th and August 20th. Take two, mark it. Fast forwarding to August 27th and August 28th in the great state of North Carolina and the great state of South Carolina, the state where I was born, the almighty anti-scene, baby. It's been a long time since we've done anything, and now we're going to make up for that lost time by playing two shows in one weekend, the Ground Zero in Spartanburg, South Carolina, with our pals Hembre and the Satan Sisters. And then the next night at the Tipsy Burro in the Queen City herself of Charlotte. We've got a whole new set cooked up. Some songs that have never been played live before. Maybe even one or two songs that are brand new from our forthcoming album. Maybe. I guess you'll have to go to either of these shows and find out, won't you? The Tipsy Burro gig is free of charge. You do not have to pay money at the door to get into the show. Don't have to do it. All you got to do is show up. Maybe eat some of the fine food from their kitchen and drink some of the fine drinks from their taps and hang out with us, the almighty anti-scene. We're going to have a sort of sit and sup before the gig. I personally love eating at the Tipsy Burro. I'm, full-blown vegan. They got some good vegan options on the menu. I'm always happy to pig out there at the Tipsy Burro. So if you ever wanted to sit down and watch Anti-Scene shove big handfuls of food into our collective face, this is really an opportunity not to be missed. Don't let the scrawny build fool you. Don't let the complete lack of body fat fool you. I can eat. And you can watch it happen right there, baby. On the 28th. Woo! All right, let's tune down a little bit. Let's see who's in there. Neil is here. Jenny DeSoto from New Jersey. The Dean of Sods himself, Adam Wolf. Chad. Oh, we got lots of cool people. Mr. Malinowski likes my shirt. I like his record store, Willimantic Records. I normally don't advertise anybody but myself, but you know what? Willimantic Records, cool shop. I don't think I've ever walked out of there empty-handed. That's high praise indeed. So we've checked the bulletin board. We've checked the billboard. Let's check the mailbox real quick before we get into the meat of this week's matter. Raven wants to know if what I'm drinking out of this 1-gallon jug is moonshine. No, this is Danbury Tap Shine. You open the faucet, put it under the spigot, and fill it up with Walta. And then I drink it. That's what happens here. I'm fond of telling people, Raven for example, that I am the most boring guy in the room because I am straight edge, I am vegan, I don't even drink tea, let alone coffee or alcohol. I just don't do it. If you want to do it, that's fine, man. You do your thing. Whatever gets you through the night is all right. It's all right. But I drink a lot of water and I eat vegan chow, man. Stuff I eat, let's just say I like it. No animal products were ever consumed in the making of my rock and roll, at least not since the year 2001. So let's have some Danbury tap water in toast to boring lifestyles. Jenny DeSoto says she was born in South Carolina. Man, Jenny and I not only have the same birth date, we have the same birth state. What town were you born in, Jenny? If it was Columbia, I'm going to sit here and find an edible hat somewhere, an edible vegan hat to eat, because that's just too much. Too much. Well, what was in the mailbox, you might ask? Kind of a slow week this week, but that's all right. We need a little respite from the excitement occasionally. Here's the address. If you can see it, Malcolm Tent, P.O. Box 3626, Newtown, Connecticut, 06470. That is the post-it that came with this fine issue of Clee magazine from 1996, sent to me by Devo co-founder and all-around good egg, Bob Lewis. Really cool magazine devoted, as you might kind of guess from the name, Clee. It's all about the Cleveland music scene, then and now. And this is chock full of bands I've never heard of before. But I love regional scenes. I love regional rock and roll. And I've got a very deep-rooted affinity for Cleveland and Akron and Cuyahoga Falls and Columbus. I love Ohio. I've played some of my best shows ever in Ohio. And I really like Ohio an awful lot. I like the people. I like sauerkraut balls. I like the giant, eternally erupting flame of waste gas that you see from the highway in Cleveland. It's amazing. It's kind of like the torch of friendship, only a lot more malignant. That's Cleveland. So thank you for that, Bob Lewis. My main dog, Randy Larson, who's tuned in. I got a big old box from Randy. If you guys know the justly loved and known band Cable, you may or may not know that Randy is the guitar player in Cable, and he sent me not only a Cable album, but something else he's involved in, the Empty Flowers album. I don't know if he's on this one, but this is Toulon, a travel journal about France. This is a hell of a package, man. The Hate-Filled World, one-sided 12-inch single, clear vinyl, silk screened no less. It's only got grooves on one side and silk screening on the other. And I haven't tried this out yet. It's 3D. Actually, let's find out right now, shall we? Let's see if this 3D stuff works. Whoa. Even with the very occluded vision I have, this record is gouging my eyes. Not sure if Randy's on that one. Randy, if you're watching, tell us if you're on all of these. And I can't read this one, but there it is. It looks good, and I'm sure it sounds good too. So thank you, Randy, for filling P.O. Box 3626, Newtown, Connecticut, with some really good stuff. Really appreciate it. And I've already sent you a return package, and you told me this morning you've already received it. So everybody is happy. Yay! All right. Enough fall-de-roll. Let's everybody climb into the Wayback Machine and flip the lever to the year 1981. Woo! Let's have a little show of hands here for anybody who wants to chime in. In the year 1981, I was 16 going on 17. Anybody of you out there want to tell us how old you were during the summer of 1981 specifically? Presuming, of course, that you all had been born at that time. I might have a young audience. I don't know. I'm old. Very old and creaky and shaky and falling apart by the minute because I was born in 1964 in Columbia, South Carolina. Which is why I can remember a year like 1981. Does 1981 mean anything to anybody out there? Let's scroll down a little bit and see if we have any reactions to the year 1981. Any memories? Raven was 5. Okay, so you were there. You could even conceivably remember 1981. Maybe. Let's see who else is looking in here and chiming in. I'm sure I'll get some responses in a second. Okay, so 1981 was a really, really good year. Pear says he was 28 years old. Larry was 20. What? You mean there were people older than I was in 1981? WTF. 17. Okay, 17, maybe 3. Okay, now that's a youngin' right there. James Pogo's young. Brian was 13. I remember you at the age of 13. Oh my God, 28, 20? What an incredibly wide disparity of ages. That's good. That means that my talk about 1981 is going to hit everybody in a different way. So 1981 was a very exciting year for music. And I'm not one of those guys who goes around saying, well, you know, there's nothing good being made today. Oh, new music all sucks, you know. All the good music was... No. There's good music being made every second of every day. Everywhere. I mean, look at this. Look at all this stuff that Randy Larson sent me. This is all new stuff. It's all new. It's happening right now. You can go back to any calendar year ever, and you will find that the shite music has always outweighed the good. Think about it. You could probably look up, like, say, the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart or Hot album chart for any given year. Okay, look at the top 100 for any given week, and you will see, I guarantee you, 98 shite releases and a couple of bona fide classics. It's always been that way. It's never changed. It's true now. It was true then. It was true in 1981. But 1981, for whatever reason, just seemed to have a disproportionately huge number of great releases, like all across the spectrum, you know? I mean, just fantastic. And 81, for yours truly, and apologize to people like Austin Kutcher, who wasn't born until 82. Austin, I'm sure that around 1997, you experienced what I experienced around 1981. 1981, I was just starting to blossom in terms of having the open-mindedness to discover new music, the ability to discover new music, and the ability to track it down. 1981 was great. I was still, at this time, I was too young to drive. But I was old enough to start figuring stuff out. Like, I could ride my bike the 5 or 6 miles to the nearest bus stop in unincorporated northwest Dade County and catch a bus and just zip all over the place. I could go to the 163rd Street Shopping Center, which is usually my destination because 163rd Street had, not only was it across the street from Discount Records, but it was very close to Vibrations Records, walking distance to Vibrations Records. There was a record store in the 163rd Street Shopping Center, and Blue Note Records was also there. They had just opened up their location. So I was just starting to be able to really break beyond the confines of where Mom and Dad could drive me. And it was very, very exciting. Now, just keep that in mind, because we're going to get to that particular voyage of discovery in a minute. But for the first part of 1981, and for, you know, really the whole year at the time, I was still very much into the mainstream. I mentioned the Billboard Top 40 earlier. Mainstream culture, the stuff you could find at any like mall record store. Specs Music, Specs Records at the Westland Mall was still my go-to. That was still my stomping grounds. That is still where the family went every Sunday to have our little shopping excursion. You know, mom and dad and the kids, we'd all pile in the car, drive to Westland Mall, meet you in the front of J.C. Penney's in an hour, go have fun. And so I'd go to Specs and shop for records. And Specs, while they did have a tiny little itty-bitty punk section, and they did have a little itsy-weensy sort of microscopic import section, they still had mostly major label domestic releases. But man, let me tell you, major label domestic releases in 1981, quite a roster. How about that one right there? Scary Monsters, Super Creeps, Keep Me Running Scared. David Bowie. Arguably the last great Bowie album. And I will be very happy to see the argument begin, because that's kind of what this is all about. Not arguments with people calling each other names and insulting people. And we never had that on 10 Talks Tunes. The argument being people arguing points back and forth. Discussions of merits. The true sense of an argument where you argue your position. Arguably, David Bowie's last truly great record. I might even go so far as to say that Let's Dance. I wouldn't say that was his last great album, but it was his last, for quite a while, good album. Scary Monsters was the last great album. And I think it was my main man, M-A-N-N, Larry Mann, who commented earlier about MTV. MTV was just getting off the ground in 1981. It really wasn't a blip on the radar, but the idea of videos on TV was definitely starting to become an idea. And the videos from this album, notably Fashion and Ashes to Ashes, were on TV a lot. You know, like if there was like 4 or 5 minutes of spare time somewhere to fill on the local UHF station, they would show a video. There was a show called Friday Night Videos. So you saw a lot of the videos from this record, and they were great videos, fantastic videos, absolutely innovative and cutting edge and artistic. 1981, Bowie's, I will say, last great album. Major label, mainstream, easy to find in the malls. If you can find stuff like that, no problem. Now, you know that in the year 1981, if we're talking about great albums, life-changing albums, epiphany-causing albums, you know that New Traditionalist is going to come up. What more do I have to say? You know, there are plenty of people who might say this was the last truly great Devo album. I love them all, except for one. There's only one Devo album that I don't absolutely love and get rabid and foaming over the mouth, you know, foaming through the mouth with. 1981, New Traditionalists by Devo. Went to go see that concert. Got the tour book. The tour book which safely resides in my collection to this day. 1981. 1981, The Police, Zenyatta Mondatta. Don't know if I've ever really talked about The Police in depth on Tent Talks Tunes. But dadgummit, I love The Police. I love The Police. I love The Police. The Police are one of those bands. I've got every single album. I've got most of the singles. If you look throughout my house, you'll see the Police 6-pack of picture sleeves hanging in one room. You'll see Police cassettes and the cassette stack of art in another room. I love The Police. Zenyatta Mondatta, 1981. Guess what? Not their greatest album. I really do not think this was their greatest album. It's a good album. It's about half good songs. It's got a couple of real killers. but a lot of it just sort of comes and goes, you know. But 1981, this was part of the landscape, along with New Traditionalists and Scary Monsters. And Danbury Tap Water was certainly around in 1981. I wonder if Danbury Tap Water was more fair or more foul in 1981. Are there any Hat City intuitives out there who lived in Danbury in 81? I was still in Florida. Was the Danbury Tap Water any better, or was it worse? Please tell us. Let us know if our tax money going to the EPA was well spent. Can hardly get more mainstream than this, kids. Rolling Stones, Tattoo You, 1981. In my opinion, the last gasp for the Rolling Stones was this album right here. And, you know, I'll say it again. It's kind of like what I said earlier about whoever it was I was talking about. Their later albums, you know, there's good stuff here and there, good songs here and there. But as far as cohesive records, this is the last truly good one they ever did. And they toured in 1981, and there was a big closed circuit broadcast for it. And it was really exciting. And the Stones still had edge. They still had cachet. It was part of the excitement. You know, it was part of the fabric of what was going on in 1981. So yeah, Stones, Tattoo You. I still got it. Now, somebody earlier, I think it was Raven, said you got to look for the underground. Well, this is where the story for me gets really good and really interesting and really a lot of fun. Because, as you've probably heard on previous episodes of Tent Talks Tunes, which are all archived on my YouTube channel, just look me up, Malcolm Tent, M-A-L-C-O-L-M-T-E-N-T, Malcolm Tent, my YouTube channel, look it up. Archived episodes of Tent Talks Tunes, including at least one about my discovery of punk rock in 1978. So from that very early age, when I was in like the 7th grade, 8th grade, I was aware of this thing, punk rock. And as I studied it more and got to know more about it due to my mind, which is wired for progressive learning, Brian, I learned more and got deeper and deeper into it, more in depth to it. You know, I was 2 inches deep and 2 miles wide into punk rock. But it was right around 1981 that I was able to really start discovering the underground and getting my hands on some of this stuff that I could normally only read about. Now, really key pivotal band. It was extremely underground. Anyway, actually, hold on one second. Before I get into that, I'll mention one more. And this is kind of like on the cusp of underground and mainstream. Mainstream bands who never made it as big as they should have and released what I think is... God, am I going to say it? Am I really going to say this? This is a tough one, people. I wonder if I'm going to say this. Let's see if anybody's got some smarmy comments. Austin says, the only time I've ever heard Malcolm say he loves the Police. That's about right. That's about right. Am I going to say this? I'm going to say it, okay? Because as Archie Shepp said about Sun Ra, he said that when we would rehearse songs, we would rehearse one set of songs, and then when it came time to play the concert, Sun Ra would want to play an entirely different set of songs that we hadn't rehearsed. It didn't drive me mad because he simply changed his mind. C'est la jazz, c'est la vie. That is life, that is jazz. So, right here, right now, at this moment, I'm going to say it. My favorite Ramones album. My favorite Ramones album. In that wonderful, magical summer of 1981. Pleasant dreams. If some kind of discussion doesn't start now, I'm not doing my job. Love this album. Produced by Graham Goldman of 10cc. Sheer brilliance. It's so true. Anyway, getting into the underground and the tunes that were a lot harder to find. It was possible. It was possible to do so, even before I was able to get around town and zip around on my bike and on the bus. You know, the family outings to the mall did yield gold. And sometimes one learned about gold from the absolute unlikeliest of sources. You could find good information anywhere, really, if you looked hard enough. I read in Rolling Stone magazine, of all effing places, in 1981, about, there's a band I already knew about. I already had some of their stuff, but they said there was a brand new live album by this group that was not going to be released in the United States of America. Here's more of my broken, mangled French. Hope you'll forgive me up there in Quebec. Parler au printemps. Image publique. S.A. That, my friends, is Public Image Limited. Paris in the Spring. A live album released in 1981 that I don't know if it's still come out in the States. Does anybody out there know? Has this album still ever come out in the States? I don't know if it has. I'd be surprised if it did. Yeah. This is one frightening album, kids. This is a scary slab of heavy wax. This is a genuine piece of uneasy listening. And this fit right into the zeitgeist of 1981, man. This was part of the tapestry of music. And it was very hard to find. But core blimey, one day at Specs Music. I don't know who did the buying there, but in that little itty-bitty slim import punk rock section of theirs, they actually had this record. And you better believe I bought it. Boom, just like that. Paid $10.99 for it in 1981 dollars. That was a lot of Jack. Of course, another key to this thrill of discovery was the fact that I had my first job around this time. One of the few I've ever held in my life. My first ever job. Ah, Michaud, I got it right. Image publique, parler au printemps. I got it right. That's an official blessing from the Québécoisie. Thank you. Thank you, Michaud. I love being right. So, yeah, man, I had a job. And a job meant a paycheck. And since I was still living at home with mom and dad, having a paycheck meant I had a little bit of scratch to fling about here and there on records. So not only could I get to them a little bit more easily, but now I could actually buy them. I wasn't limited to having just one a week, you know, as per my allowance or whatever. I could buy as many as I could afford with my paycheck, basically. Oh yeah. So it's getting real exciting. A little bit later, I read, maybe even in Rolling Stone, about how Public Image Limited had another album coming out, but it was kind of the exact opposite. Whereas Parler au printemps was only going to come out in England, their newest album was so uncommercial and so sonically repulsive that the English label refused to release it. And that, in a very strange turn of events, there's going to be a, quote, small pressing, unquote, available in the States on Warner Brothers Records. When did that ever happen before, when the supposedly more progressive, forward-thinking English label would not release it, but the giant monolithic troglodyte, backwards-looking Neanderthal American label would release it? Unprecedented. Probably hasn't happened since. So you knew I needed to find it. I needed to find this record that the English company would not release and was only going to be available in a very limited quantity in the US. So, you better believe, kids, that when I got my paycheck cashed at the Winn-Dixie grocery store where I was a bag boy, bagging groceries, pushing carts, cleaning bathrooms, mopping floors, I actually enjoyed it. I liked working at Winn-Dixie. Winn-Dixie was a fun gig. I didn't mind the work at all. The idiots I had to work with, different story entirely. And I'll qualify that too by saying I liked a lot of the people there. The cashiers were all great. Some of the people on the crew were good. No worries. But yeah, by and large, a bunch of goddamn morons who worked there, and I hated every single one of them. Whatever. I digress. That's part of what fueled my punk rock angst and my anger and my need to find this stuff. I was working a job at the grocery store. But whatever, I got my check, I cashed it, I got on the bus and went to 163rd Street Shopping Center where all the concentration of record stores was. And my eyes went like this when I walked into the record store at that shopping center, the name of which I cannot for the life of me remember, because they usually never had anything good. They very rarely ever had anything good. In fact, what I found there was one of only 2 records that I ever bought there. I could not believe that this nondescript generic record store in North Miami Beach, Florida actually had the incredibly elusive, not to be released in England and just barely to be released in the US of A, they had it. For $6.99, regular domestic prices. The Flowers of Romance by Public Image Limited, 1981. Please keep in mind that every record I've talked about all came out basically, and we're stretching time a little bit, but basically in the summer of 1981. This was all epiphanies. My God, I love this record. This record is really tough to listen to. It's not the sonic powerhouse that Palais au Printemps is. It's not the moody middle of the night masterpiece that second edition metal box is. It's got some pretty scary shite on it. This is a real good record. And to this day, I'm kind of surprised that anybody released it at all. But I'm glad they did. While I was there at that nameless record store, that very same day, as I was going to check out, I saw that they had a small bin of records with a donation can next to it. Don't know what the cause was, but it was like, make a donation, take a record. So I looked through, and it was a bunch of promo junk, really, that they couldn't sell. And 1981, like I said earlier, the crap way outweighed the gold. So this is all like a bunch of real promo junk. Except for one record that kind of caught my eye. It was an album called Mistakes by a group called GRUPPO SPORTIVO. They were a Dutch band, and their album was in that bin, so I stuffed like $1 into the can and took home the GRUPPO SPORTIVO album called Mistakes, and this bonus 7-inch was inside of it. More Mistakes by GRUPPO SPORTIVO. And it had some pretty cool song titles on there. You can see them. Disco Really Made It, Girls Never Know, Rubber Gun. Kind of intriguing. They certainly looked like they had the right idea. And for $1, why not? Friends, I gotta tell you, I might have addressed this before, but I'm sure some of you out there, and once again, you're more than welcome to chime in on this. I want to see what you guys' opinions are on this. Can you think of and name some bands that you really, really, really thought you were going to like, and bands that you really wanted to like, and bands that you really made the effort to like, but just couldn't? Well, I'm here to give you the news that GRUPPO SPORTIVO is one of those bands. I tried. I really did. Like I just said a minute ago, they look great. They've got interesting song titles. They were from a foreign land. They were new wave. But man, that album I won't say that it sucked because, for what it is, it's good, but I just didn't like it. There's not one single song in their entire catalog that did anything for me except for the song Disco Really Made It on this free EP, which apparently is not even the right title for the song. Apparently they mastered this 7-inch with the wrong song. And I'm glad that I got the one with the wrong song, because whatever it is, going under the name of Disco Really Made It, is a great tune. Great tune. Really, really good tune. And that's it for GRUPPO Sportivo. I got rid of the album a long time ago, but I have had this 45 since 1981. The summer of 1981. 40 years! Neil mentions, and Larry. Neil and Larry mentioned Ultravox and Roxy Music. I agree with you guys on that. Roxy, they're one of those bands who I can appreciate intellectually, and I understand their impact, but I honestly just don't like the music. I really just don't. And Ultravox, I like some of the stuff they did later on with Midge Ure. Like Vienna's a great record, Rage in Eden's a good record. There are, there's some stuff there. I like some of that Midge Ure stuff, but by and large, I don't really get to it. Michaud says I'm going to be scandalized, but he never really got Devo. I'm not going to say a word about that. We're just going to let that go. My lips are sealed, just like the Go-Go's, whose first album also came out in 1981 and was very exciting and very new and very cool. Love the Go-Go's. So anyway, oh my God, now we're getting into this real terra incognita, okay? And here's another part of the equation. Not only do I have something resembling wheels between my bike and the bus, not only do I have money in my pocket because of my job, there is also an incredible radio show that aired on WLRN FM in Miami every Monday at midnight. It was called Radio Free Living Room. And they played the best, just the best stuff ever. And I would stay up till midnight on Mondays, risking my sanity the next day at school, for staying up that late and then having to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever to go to school. But I would stay up and listen to Radio Free Living Room with my finger quivering and sweating, poised on the pause button of my tape recorder, just waiting for the next amazing song to come on that I could record it and take notes as to who it was. I started hearing stuff on Radio Free Living Room that was, in the truest sense of the word, psychedelic. The word psychedelic means mind expanding. So in that true sense of the word, this stuff was psychedelic. It expanded my mind. And the absolute final key to the equation came a little bit later in the year when my friend Tim Powell and my musical mentor, Tim Powell, gave me a ride along with my BFFF, Jill, who might be tuned in right now. Don't know if you are, but I hope you are, Jill. And her BFF, Joan's older brother, Tim, who was old enough to drive, took us all to Open Books and Records in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That was super duper key, because now I had access to the real, honest to God, underground stuff. I could hear about it, I could read about it, and I could afford it. And with enough luck, I could get there. Oh boy, it was happening now. I should mention too that Trouser Press had come on the scene right around this time as well. I'd always read Cream magazine and, as mentioned before, Rolling Stone, but Trouser Press was a real, once again, eye-opener, because this is the kind of stuff they wrote about. And the ads would advertise all these records that I was just like, what is this? What is this? This is incredible. And then walking into Open Books and Records for the first time and actually seeing a store full of these things. Not just a skinny little import section at Specs. Not just a couple of things scattered here and there at Music Makers. Not a pretty good looking bin at Vibrations. Not the occasional local record at Peaches. Not, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't just like taking a rake and, you know, raking up a whole bunch of dead leaves and occasionally finding a gold nugget. This was a record store full of this stuff. Like, you walked in and the first thing you saw was, well, I'll tell you, one of the first things I saw when I walked in there was another band I had read about in the summer of 1981 in the same article that talked about the Public Image Limited live record in, of all fucking places, Rolling Stone magazine. Why on earth they ever condescended to write about Joy Division is beyond me. But I'm glad they did, because the way they described Joy Division made me feel like I really needed to hear that. I needed to hear some Joy Division. And sure enough, I walked into Open Books and Records, and this is not the actual copy that I bought at Open that fateful day in 1981. But I remember walking in there, looking to my left, they had all the new releases on the wall, and I saw it right there, Still, by Joy Division, in the original sort of, I don't even know what color you would describe it as. This sort of like creamy brown. I don't know. It's probably mauve or something like that. But they had it. They had it. And I knew where my $10.99 was going. It was a double album too, which for $10.99 was not bad. That opened up some real serious floodgates, kids. And by the way, this is the, if you can see, it's the blue and white version, which you really don't see that often. The only reason I have this is because I traded my original copy back to Open and bought this one when this got traded in to Open by somebody else. Yes, Open had new and used records. This was also a giant, giant psychedelic experience. Used records? That opened up an entire universe of possibilities as far as what you could find. You people know what I'm talking about. So Joy Division. This came out in 1981, baby. And remember, we're talking about nothing but stuff from 1981. A great, pivotal year for yours truly. So I discovered Joy Division that year. There was a song I heard on Radio Free Living Room. I hit the pause button after about 5 seconds of it because I knew I needed it. Under normal circumstances, you could be damn sure that you were never, ever going to find a record by Blurt. The fish needs a bike. The fish needs a bike. God damn, what a record. But they had it at Open Books and Records for $3.49 or whatever. 1981. The Fish Needs a Bike by Blurt. This was also one of my earliest experiences with a genuine imported 45 RPM single that had a small hole instead of a big hole. It's the little things like that that kind of blow your mind, you know, when you see them for the first time. It's just really cool. It was on a label I'd never heard of, Armageddon Records, like a genuine UK independent label. This record never came out in the States. Not to this day. I don't think it's ever been anthologized anywhere. To this day, you can't find an American pressing of this record. You had to search it out. And now I had the tools. I had the means to do it. 1981, kids, when Derek Giles was 6 years old. I was out prowling the shops. I didn't know much about this band after I heard it on Radio Free Living Room. I just know that once again my finger went to the pause button the second I heard the bass line. That's very off key, but that bass line. And I took notes. That song was called Six Pack by Black Flag. kind of funny because I saw this record around at Open Books and Records, but I never actually bought it. Like, I liked the song Six Pack, but I didn't like it enough to lay down the $2.99 or whatever it was, $2.49 to buy the record. But I saw it. It was there in the summer of 1981. It was there. I saw it. I was aware of it. Didn't get anything about Black Flag until after I saw them live for the first time. And as mentioned before, if you go to my YouTube channel, the episode where I talk about my first ever live punk rock show, which was Black Flag, is gone into in depth and detail by moi on that episode of Tent Talks Tunes. So look it up. I wasn't ready for Black Flag yet, but I got there. There's another record I heard on Radio Free Living Room. And you got to remember, too, a Monday night at midnight, when you're like, you've been at school all day, or maybe work all day, whatever, and you're supposed to get up really early the next day again and repeat the process. It's Monday, you're tired, you're probably half fallen asleep anyway, but just like determined to stay awake long enough to hear as much as you possibly can, with your finger on the pause button, just waiting to hear something. It's kind of the same deal. I heard this menacing bass line come through the speakers of my little jam box. Hit the pause immediately and heard this song that was one of the most nerve-wracking pieces of music I'd ever heard. You know, mind you, I already knew at this point, I already knew about stuff like what I've talked about already, but there was still a lot I had yet to learn. So hearing a song called 2010s by the Virgin Prunes in 1981, that woke me right up. This is one of the weirdest, scariest, nerve-wracking records of all time. The song 2010s. And then the second song on side A, The Children Are Crying. Oh my God. Oh no, sorry, Revenge is the song. Revenge. And actually, The Children Are Crying kind of defies all description. And I heard this at the tender age of 16 going on 17 in 1981. Interesting side note about the Virgin Prunes, their guitar player had a cousin who also played guitar in a band that was also starting to make some waves in the year 1981. That was U2. And I'm not ashamed to say that I liked U2 an awful lot when they first came out. That first single, I Will Follow, at least the first single in the US. I know they had a few before that, but the first US single, I Will Follow, that was good. That was an eye-opener. That hit all the right blue notes. That was really good. My BFF Jill, don't know if Jill's tuned in. I haven't seen her yet. She usually stops in and says hello. But Jill got what I'm reasonably sure that she bought the first copy of I Will Follow ever offered for sale in South Florida, because she found it in a reject pile that a WSHE DJ had at a record swap one Sunday. And I know for a fact I'd never seen that record anywhere out in the wild. Doesn't mean it wasn't out there, but for sure the first one I ever saw was one that WSHE received, because it had their date stamp on it, and then threw away. And the DJ sold it for $1 to my BFF. So I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think Jill was the first one to buy at least that particular U2 record in all of South Florida. She knew it was good. She still does. You know what else? Another band that I got turned on to by Jill. A band, once again, I knew about. They were kind of in the ether. I'd read about them in Trouser Press. I heard a song by theirs on Radio Free Living Room, which, it was really weird. I heard the guitar intro. It was this very strange, kind of like quavering tremolo guitar intro. It sounded very odd. I remember, and I still have the mixtape, I have like the first 5 or 6 seconds of it, and then I was like, nah, and hit the pause button again and didn't record the song. But later in the year, when I met Jill, she turned me onto this album that also came out in 1981, let me borrow it. I listened to it, and oh my God, there's that song. Yeah, I didn't like this when I heard it on the radio, but this is good. This is good. So 1981, combination of all these different factors, was when I discovered for the first time Siouxsie and the Banshees. Specifically their 1981 album, Juju. This is another game changer. It's damn good stuff. I can put this album on right now and get goosebumps. Sometimes I do when I'm working here in the laboratory, packing and shipping. Because as I've mentioned before, and what I do certainly hope is that you folks out there are going to take me up on my offer to sell you some exotic Adrian Street albums. I'll mention again, $10 each plus shipping, an incredible bargain. Factory sealed, brand new albums. This one's open only because it's mine. $10 plus shipping will keep me at work honestly here in TPOS headquarters. You can find me where the hell it is, on Discogs and eBay. This is what keeps me alive, people buying records and me shipping them out. Whether they're exotic Adrian Street albums or not. TPOS, Discogs and eBay. Look them up. Keep me busy. Anyway, when I'm packing records and shipping them out, usually very late at night, I can put this record on, or I can put on Siouxsie and the Banshees' Hyena, or A Kiss in the Dream House, or Tinderbox, and just know that I've got the right music for the right place and the right time, which is when it is very dark and quiet outside. It's perfect. Shannon, who is also from New Jersey, knows exactly what I'm talking about. Siouxsie and the Banshees. So good. So very good. I could probably go on a bit more, a bit longer, and talk about some other stuff from 1981. But that's basically that's the vegan lunch meat of the matter. Those are like some real pivotal acquisitions that I acquired in 1981, and music that I still love. Michaud points one out. Venom, Welcome to Hell. Okay, I didn't know that. I did not know that Venom's Welcome to Hell came out in 1981. That record was so far under the radar, I didn't know anything about Venom until about 3 years later, when I started to read about them, here and there. And that's around the time I discovered Hellhammer, the Apocalyptic Raids EP, 1984. And I got to tell you right now, kids, 1984 was another pivotal year for music for yours truly, which no doubt I'll talk about on a future episode of Tent Talks Tunes. Yeah, Alice Cooper, Special Forces, another great record that went under the radar for different reasons entirely. Special Forces kind of came and went because Alice's previous two albums, From the Inside and Flush the Fashion, as they say in the business, did not perform to expectations. They were kind of undersold in the marketplace. They didn't ship tonnage. So Warner Brothers, the record label, had really kind of lost faith in the Coop, and they didn't really push that record too hard. They just kind of let it come and go. I mean, he toured for it, and it was the last tour he did for several years after that. But I think between his health problems at that time, which are now pretty well documented, and the fact that the record company didn't really care anymore, Special Forces, just nobody really paid much attention to it, which is a shame because it's a good record. It's a real good record. Let's see, Gary Newman, Dance was 1981, another record that was released in the U.S. and just went like right down the turlet, man. For kind of the same reasons. The prior album by Gary Newman, Telecon, woefully underperformed. Cars had been a great big hit in 1979. Telecon in 1980, even though Gary Newman toured for it, it didn't have a song like Cars on it. Telecon was a very downbeat, very dark, kind of minimalist record. And there just wasn't anything on there that was going to jumpstart people into Gary Newman mania. I remember the single that released was I Die, You Die. And I don't know, it just wasn't going to be a hit. So that album tanked. Telecon was in the cutout bins for a long time after that. I mean, for like over 10 years after that. You know, all the way up into the 90s, Telecon records were in the overstock warehouses. So, yeah, Atco lost a bundle on that one. And so Dance came out, which was an even more understated, dark, strange, unmarketable record. You know, and I think it went just about straight to the cutout bins. You rarely see copies of that one that are not cut. Same thing with I Assassin from 1982. And after that, no more Gary Newman records in the States for a good long time. But yeah, it was cool, man. Let's see, who else is talking about? You have Wall of Voodoo. Dark Continent was vaguely aware of Wall of Voodoo. Kinda. Sort of knew of them. Mostly because of Erg, A Music War, which I also believe came out in 1981. Along with Dance Craze, the ska movie. Along with Ghost Town by the Specials. See, more 1981 stuff. So much. And yes, Warren points out the Black Flag album Damaged, but we already know I wasn't quite aware of that one yet. And yeah, just so much great stuff from that year. Keep them coming, kids. Keep those posts and those comments coming. I love to read them. I'll be checking them all out later. As for now, my voice is a little bit raggedy. I'm a little bit dehydrated. I got some stuff to do. Harry, I'm going to reiterate, has not been seen all day, and he hasn't come in at all. I don't know what the problem is with him. I wish he would show up. It would make me a little bit happier if I knew where he was. But I'm going to make some dinner for him, just in case he does decide to show up soon. And, yeah, that kind of sums everything up. Please do not forget the almighty anti-scene in our return to the stage, August 27th, August 28th, Spartanburg, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. Please do not forget an honest-to-God punk rock show in New Milford, Connecticut, August 6th. My band, the Bloody Apostles, with our good friends White Thrash and Collins Way. Don't forget, go to the shows. Go to the shows. Don't forget my web stores on Discogs and eBay. Look them up. TPOS. Very classy stuff. Helps keep me alive. And the longer I'm alive, the longer I can do Tent Talks Tunes. As it stands now, I do intend to be alive for at least another 167 hours. So until we meet again, this is Malcontent saying so long from the Nutmeg State.